Everybody, no bells and whistles or anything like that. I'll wait for a few people to come in because I don't want to keep repeating myself the things I'm saying. So I'll wait for people to come in and then we'll start. How was everybody in the chat? Hope you're doing really well. Yeah, I think this is going. He's basically saying in this video everything that's been saying on X. He's had a proper meltdown on X about things today. So I'll wait for a few more people to come in because I'm not really announced. I should really sort this out, but I can't. I should have. Hi, Stefan, mate. How you doing? We're going to be looking at this in a minute. We're going to be critiquing it. It's 23 minutes long, so it might take me a bit of time to get through it. If I've not watched this yet, so we're watching it together. So if what's in this video, what I think's in it, then I've got a few things to say. Yeah, I'll wait for everybody to come in, wait for get a few more people to come, and then I'll address it. We'll wait for it to get up to about 50 people, and then we'll start. And it's up to 50 now. Well, we're going to watch it together. We'll watch it together. Thank you. Appreciate that. So we'll analyze it. We'll analyze what he's saying. I'm glad he's done a video because I hate doing back and forths in comments and stuff. He's got his right to his opinion. I want to say that from the outset. I just don't agree with it. I think he's making a mountain out of a molehill. Yeah. And I don't get it because you know what? People have actually been telling him all day what Rupert Lowe's stance is on multiculturalism. They've been sending him links and everything. And he just refuses to acknowledge what people are saying. And so people have been saying he's quite ignorant and he's very opinionated. So there you go. Right, let's get into this. I will keep stopping, starting, and coming back and talking to the chat, and we'll discuss points. So we'll have a look at it.
Well, this is not a video I particularly wanted to make because I'm going to spend.
Headphones in. I forgot I hadn't got my headphones in. Sorry, buddy. I do apologise. We'll start this again.
Well, this is not a video I particularly wanted to make.
But you have. You know, every time a YouTuber does that, this is not a video I wanted to make, means they really wanted to make it. I'm just saying.
Because I'm going to spend a portion of it criticising Rupert Lowe.
Right. I want to say this as well. I've got no problems with anybody criticising Rupert Lowe or Restore Britain. We need to do this. Yeah. What I have an issue with is when people have been given the information that they've basically the questions have been answered, their criticisms have been addressed, but they keep repeating the same arguments over and over again, even though people have informed them that what they're saying is nonsense. Yeah, that's what I don't like, and that's what this guy's doing.
Now, before you click off this video and hit the dislike button on your way out, I have been one of the most staunch defenders of Rupert Lowe, and
that's what makes this very, very strange, because you said you've been a defender of Rupert Lowe, which means you must understand his position in order to defend him, and that's what makes this odd to me, because all the things that you have an issue with, he's been saying from the very beginning of the start of Restore Britain. So if you've been defending him since the very start of Restore Britain, then you should understand his position on everything. But it seems like you don't. So look at the chat. Right. I'm just having a look at the chat, see what everybody's saying. Everybody's okay, right? No, he's not done any research on any of this. That's my issue.
verify that by going back through my channel and looking at the videos I posted. I defended him when he was in reform, and there was a spat between him and Farage. I defended him when he was kicked out. I defended him when there was a kerfuffle over his dog, Cromwell. I defended him when he decided to create a party. Look, the point I'm trying to get at is I do not accept, and I will not listen to people posting saying that I'm just trying to stir the pot, okay? I've defended this.
And that's part of your issue. The fact that you're not listening to people. Because that's what it does look like. It looks like you're stirring the pot. Because everything that you've got an issue with has already been clarified. And I even sent you a message myself, yeah? That Rupert Lowe clarified everything that you're going to say, that I think you're going to say in this video, in a podcast last week with Charlie Downs in a podcast. They covered multiculturalism, they covered ethno-nationalism and that sort of thing. So there's already credible information out there for you to go and take a look at and change your opinion on. Yeah, you should already know what Rupert Lowe's stance is on everything. I do. I'm sure most of my audience do. I can say with 100% guarantee, I know exactly what Rupert Lowe's stance is on mass deportations. I know what his stance is on multiculturalism because I've listened to him and what he said about those things. And I know Rupert Lowe is consistent in what he says. And unless he changes his mind on something, I just assume that everything he said in the past is everything that he still believes now. That's how a rational mind works. Until somebody tells you they've changed their stance on something, you assume that that stance is the same. Yeah? I think that's a reasonable expectation. Defended. He says he's endorsed carries weight. This is what I mean, right? This is what I mean, yeah. We'll carry on.
This guy for the last 2 years, and I still support Restore Britain because I think that at present they are our best vehicle at getting change in this country.
That's not what you've been saying over the last couple of days. You've been saying, if Rupert Lowe doesn't come out and clarify this, I don't know whether I can support them anymore. You said the other day, I don't support Charlie Downs as deputy leader anymore because of things he said. So you're already contradicting yourself in things that you've said on other social media platforms.
However, if the leadership are making some mistakes, some unforced errors, doing and saying things which are at best bizarre and at worst counterproductive, then I think we have a duty and a responsibility to point that out and talk about it. So that's what I'm going to do in this.
You also have a duty, if you're going to comment on these things, is do your research and find out what his stance is on things before flapping your gums about them. Otherwise, you're going to make yourself look silly. And that you've already admitted at the very beginning of this video that you're not listening to people that are trying to give you information. And I've seen it today. You've already admitted it. You're actually actively blocking people as well that are pulling your arguments apart and showing you where your logic is wrong. We'll show that in a bit. I did a short about that today.
This video, and it's going to make some people uncomfortable, especially my audience, because
no, it's not going to make people uncomfortable. It's just going to make people think that you don't do your research, because the majority of your audience, like mine, will be informed about this. They will know already that everything you're about to talk about has already been clarified. Everybody understands Rupert Lowe's position apart from you and a few others, apparently. And just have a look at some of the chat, guys. I don't think he's paid for. I'll be honest with you. I think he's just making this argument out of arrogance and ignorance. Seriously, I don't think he likes to be told that he's wrong. That's the gist I was getting from his ex-post. He's blocking people. He doesn't want to listen to people. He doesn't want to listen to people's opinion or people that are actually showing him, look, this is where Rupert is clarifying everything that you want to hear. And he's not listening, and that's the trouble. And what shocks me is, right, this guy was an officer in the British Army, right? And what makes a good leader is not just handing out orders, it's not just shouting at people, it's also listening. Listening makes you a good leader. Yeah? He's not stupid. He's not stupid. He's not stupid. You know, I've got the uppermost respect for him, apart from this instance that he's doing right now, because it's completely out of character. Yeah? Usually his videos are well informed, well put together, but on this particular occasion, they're not. It's not informed at all, and I don't get it. It's very, very change. He's changing his opinion all of a sudden, the same as always. Collect supporters on the right and then move them left. I don't know about that either. I don't think he's a lefty. I think he's just ill-informed. I think he's just arrogant. I think he's done tours. I've got the utmost respect for him because he's a veteran. Yeah, he gets my respect because of that. He's done tours. I believe he's done tours anyway. Well, let's get back to the video.
As you know, how fervently I've defended Rupert Lowe in the past. But look, these comments, these unforced errors, we have to talk about it now. I've kind of been ignoring it for the last couple of weeks, hoping that they wouldn't.
Kind of proving my case for me. You've been ignoring it. So you've not been keeping up to date on it. All the arguments being presented. All the fact that Rupert Lowe's come out and actually cleared all of this up. Everything that you're about to say. I know exactly what you're about to say.
Be more of them, and it appears that there are going to be. So let's dive into it. So the first of these errors happened about a week ago when Rupert went onto a podcast with Brett Weinstein, and he said, I don't know if I can play the clip because I might get a copyright strike, but he said, and this was his exact wording,
test far right sort of, you know, ethno-nationalist or neo-Nazism.
Right. He's answered his own question, right? What did he say first? What did Rupert Lowe say first in that sentence? I detest the far right. So we already know who he's talking about, the far right. Yeah? I know exactly who was talking about in that instance. When Rupert Lowe, when I watched that interview, when I was in the fluster about what Rupert Lowe had said last week, when I watched the clip, even from the 20-second clip, I understood what he was saying. I know exactly who he was talking about, because people of Rupert Lowe's generation, they talk about ethno-nationalism in a completely different way to what people talk about it now. Ethno-nationalism has always been associated with the far right and the fringe extreme levels of nationalism. It always has been. Yeah, the far left coined the term ethno-nationalist for that very reason. Yeah. The minute he said, I detest the far right, he's telling you who he's talking about regarding ethno-nationalism, the far right, the extreme levels of that. Yeah? We all know who the far right are, and they're a tiny percentage of the nationalist movement. They really are tiny. They're not massive. They're insignificant. Yeah? We're talking about the Austrian painter supporters. Yeah? We know exactly who they are. I'm going to show you some really good posts that I found today as well about that. This is why I don't use the term ethno-nationalist. I keep saying it because the minute you use the term ethno-nationalist, you're putting yourself in a box that the far left created for you. It's a lefty term. And I tried to explain this to people this morning, but many people still aren't listening to it. It's like, it's exactly like, it's identity politics. It's like when the far left, they call you a cis male or a cis female when they really mean straight woman, straight man. Yeah. It's the same thing. It's the same terms. Civnat, ethno-nationalist. It's identity politics. Yeah. Why are we using the language of the enemy, the far left? Because if you use the term ethno-nationalist, then the lefties are going to beat you around the head with it, because they invented that definition of that word. Ethno-nationalist is what they created, and that ethno-nationalist term means the extreme nationalists. Yeah. So if you put yourself in that box, you're doing it to yourself, and you're falling into the leftist trap every single time. And I don't get why people do it. Just call yourself a nationalist. Yeah. You're a nationalist. You're an English nationalist, or a Scottish nationalist, or a Northern Irish nationalist, or a Welsh nationalist. I refuse to use the terms that they try to put on me. I'm not an ethno-nationalist. I'm a nationalist. Yeah. Why would I use a term coined by the far left? I wouldn't use the term. I wouldn't call myself an Islamophobe, would I? Because I criticize Islam. The term used by the far left. Nobody's going to use that. Ethno-nationalist, Islamophobe are both terms that are nonsense terms. They literally are. Yeah. Hope I answered that for you. We'll get back to this. Obviously, we've got to play the advert.
Your rig is only level 10? What a trash. Your bike is mine.
No solar panels, even no turrets? Garbage! I'm gonna take your girl.
Just wait.
And that really frustrated me, and it frustrated a lot of people online.
A lot of ignorant people that didn't understand what he said. And the fact that you're bringing it up today, knowing you should know that Rupert Lowe's already clarified this. Yeah. He clarified this in a podcast last week. Yet you're pretending like he's not clarified anything yet. I don't understand what he means on this.
Fine, actually, because clearly what he's doing there is he's equating ethno-nationalism, English ethno-nationalism, with neo-Nazism.
No, the far left has already done that. That's why they coined the term ethno-nationalist. It was to associate nationalists with Nazis and fascists. We can go into a whole different debate about that. I'm not talking about that, but the far left have already done that. They associate ethno-nationalism with the extremist end level of nationalism. That's what they've done. So the way you defeat that is don't use the term.
Which is absurd, right? It doesn't even make sense to say that ethno-nationalism and neo-Nazism are the same thing. And you can prove that very quickly by just observing that there are Jewish ethno-nationalists for Israel, people who want Israel to be the Jewish homeland and a sort of Jewish ethno-state where Jews are protected and safe and secure. Are they neo-Nazis?
I'm not even going to go into that. He's wrong about that as well, by the way, because there are actually Arabs in the Israeli parliament. But I'm not going to go into that on this live stream.
Are those Jewish nationalists neo-Nazis? Of course not. So comparing ethno-nationalism and neo-Nazism in that sloppy, lazy kind of way is obviously false, but also extremely unfair to English people, English patriots, who want England to remain a majority English country.
And Rupert Lowe's talked about this. He's talked about demographic change regularly. You say you defended Rupert Lowe, but it seems you know nothing about the man. You know nothing about his stance on anything. Do you remember his speech from a few months ago when he was talking about white British males? That includes English, by the way, and how they shouldn't be ashamed of their culture or their identity or their traditions. Do you remember that? Have you listened to him talk about demographic change in our towns and cities, which he has done? He's already clarified all this. All you have to do is listen to what he's saying. And it seems that you haven't. You're just talking out of ignorance. Hey everybody in chat. I'm going to keep checking on the chat. That's a shame. I don't condone, you know, obviously it's down to everybody's individual decision, right? But I don't block people just because I disagree with them. Yeah. Maybe he'll watch this video and maybe I can convince him that what he's saying is wrong. Yeah, this is what it's all about. Dialogue, debate. I'm not having a go at Landuer. I'm just showing him why his arguments are wrong. And I'm going to do that in a bit in this live stream, because we're actually going to bring up Rupert Lowe in that podcast that he did and show him he's already clarified this. Why haven't you watched it? We all know he's clarified it already. We all saw the podcast from last week where he came out and look at what he said. I know he's going to bring this up in a bit, but he's clarified about multiculturalism. He did this weeks ago on Dan Wootton when he came out and said multiculturalism, it's a poison destroying our society. Yeah, it's already been clarified. I don't get why he's not understanding this. It just seems like he's just not done his research. I don't get it. It's just odd to me.
So that was just an unforced error. Very, very sloppy, not very politically savvy, given that most of those English ethno-nationalists are supporting Restore Britain.
Yeah, but it's not an issue if you understand what Rupert Lowe's position is on ethno-nationalism. You understand what his definition of it is. If you understand that, then you understand why he said it. And the key factor in all this is you listen to what he said first. What did he say first in that clip? I detest the far right. So everything after that point, you know he's talking about the extremes. Yeah? So even if you look at ethno-nationalism, it's on a scale. So even in ethno-nationalism, there will be the extremists within ethno-nationalism. Yeah? At the far end of the scale. So all you have to do is use a bit of intelligence and think he's talking about the extremes here. He's not talking about everybody in ethno-nationalism. If that's the term you want to use, you have to use a bit of common sense and think, well, he's talking about the extremes, because the first thing you mentioned was the far right. The far right do exist, but they're a tiny percentage of the nationalist movement. They wouldn't fill a small car park. That's the reality. Yeah. Rupert Lowe was talking about the goose-stepping Austrian painter supporters that are at the far end of the extreme part of the spectrum. I got that from the first time he said that. And what I can't understand is why you haven't come to that conclusion as well. It's just odd.
And so you're kind of just attacking your own supporters.
But he's not. He's attacking a specific group of people on the extreme end of nationalism. Yeah.
But it was explained away, not by Rupert himself, but by people around him, that, Rupert is just of a...
He did a podcast. He did a podcast explaining all of this. So it's not from other people. It's not like Rupert didn't come out and explain himself, is it?
Different generation, and to him, when he thinks of ethno-nationalism, he's thinking about jack boots and brown shirts and just going around.
So you do get it. So you do understand what he's talking about. So what's the fuss about? Why are you throwing a hissy fit if you understand what he's saying?
Beating up foreigners on the street, and that's what he's saying he detests. So I thought, okay, well, look, maybe there's just a misunderstanding. He doesn't understand the terms exactly and what they...
No, he understands that everything's on a scale, right? That's why he said far right. And if you choose to use the label ethno-nationalist, it will be on a scale like nationalism, because they're both the same thing. Ethno-nationalist and nationalist are the same thing. Yeah? I just choose the term nationalist because I don't choose labels that were created by the far left. Yeah? So we all understand all politics, all political ideology is on a spectrum. You have your moderates, you have your extremists. Yeah? So the minute he said far right, I knew exactly which end of the spectrum he was talking about. I knew he wasn't talking about everybody because he was specific. He said, I detest the far right. So it's like, right, and you even said yourself, you knew what he was talking about. So what's the fuss about? Don't get it. But that's a discussion for another day, right? You thought communists and national socialists are the same. You have very little understanding of the topic. Well, you're just showing your ignorance of the subject, all right? The key factor in national socialists and communists is socialist, yeah? But we'll get into that another day. I have done videos about this in the past, by the way. why people get those terms mixed up, right? Because people love the Austrian painter. I'm guessing you're one of these people that loves the Austrian painter and doesn't want to be associated with communists because they are sworn enemies. Yeah? I'm not going to get into this now because the live stream's not about this argument at all. Yeah? I do understand the difference between National Socialists and communists. It seems that you don't, though. But we'll get into that another day. Oh, it's got to be addressed. Now he's made a video, it's got to be addressed because this video will do a lot of damage to the Restore Britain movement. This guy has a lot of followers, and these people don't understand that they have a responsibility. There may be people unaware of all this drama going on. Not everybody is on Twitter. Not everybody watches every single thing that Rupert Lowe does. So it's important that we come out and we challenge these opinions and we show people that this guy is, on this occasion, is ill-informed on what he's saying. Look, I'll warn you again, right? This is not what this stream is about. If you continue to try and take this stream off topic, talk about this, I will block you, all right? I've warned you once. The live stream is not about what you want to talk about, all right? Mods, any mods in the chat? If you start trying to take this topic off the chat or trying to distract the chat, you know what to do, yeah? Warning, I've warned him once. We're not talking about National Socialism and communists in this live stream. Get that through your thick head, all right? I've already told you that's a stream for another day, yeah? Obviously, we're going to have some of the new National Socialists in the chat because they hate it when you're critical of them. Right, we'll carry on with the video.
They mean today and how people feel about those terms. And so perhaps the term ethno-nationalist specifically, not neo-Nazi, I'm not defending that. So maybe he just doesn't understand exactly that term. Maybe he doesn't exactly understand who his base are. And this is just a blunder. So I thought, right, I'm just going to have to get it.
I'll let you into a little secret, right, Landuer, right? Most of the base wouldn't call themselves nationalists. They just call themselves patriots. A lot of them don't understand the term ethno-nationalist anyway. Yeah? They're just nationalists and patriots. So he's not really alienating any of his base whatsoever. And that's been proven by everybody coming out and basically telling you that you're talking crap today.
Get over it, move on. It was a slip up.
With their huge range of products. A 9 p.m. cutoff for next day delivery. BES frees you up.
Fast forward a couple of days after that interview, and Rupert does another one, this time with Patrick Bet-Davies. And he's talking about King Charles hosting the Eid celebrations in Windsor Castle. And then Rupert says something very bizarre. He says, I don't have a problem with multiculturalism as long as they integrate. And
there's nothing wrong with that because that's been Rupert Lowe's stance since the very inception of Restore Britain. Yeah? He said this. If you look at his deportations policy, if you look at everything that he's said about mass deportations, he's made it quite clear the criteria for people that he's going to deport. He's already said that if you've integrated, if you are providing, if you're working, and if you respect our rule of law, our traditions, and our culture, then you're fine. And he had to say that. He had to say that because we all know there's certain demographic in our society that hasn't integrated. Yeah? We all know this. And when you use these terms, you have to be very specific about what you're saying. That's why the deportations policy, the mass deportations policy, is very specific about the people he wants to deport. Because otherwise, if he'd have said, I want to deport 100% of all migrants, then that's just going to give all the enemies all the ammunition that he wants to destroy the party. Yeah? And it wouldn't have got past the Electoral Commission, by the way, if he'd have stated that. He's never stated that he would deport all immigrants in this country. He's never said that. That's in his policy.
So a few days after that last interview, you've now got the super based right-wing Rupert Lowe coming out and saying he doesn't have a problem with multiculturalism.
That's not what he said. That's not what he said at all. You're misinterpreting what he's actually said, because now he's saying, well, he's got no problem with multiculturalism. That's not what he said. He said, I've got no problem with multiculturalism so long as people integrate, which sets him up to mass deport people that haven't integrated. But you're not that intelligent enough to realize what he's doing there. Yeah. That whole question that he was asked about that was a trap. Yeah. They were expecting him to come out and say the exact same thing that you wanted him to say. But he worded it in a different way, which said the same thing. Yeah. I've got no issues with people that integrate, right? Instead of talking about the people that he's going to deport, instead he reversed it and talked about people that could stay. Yeah. And that's been consistent all the way through what he said regarding Restore Britain's policy. There's nothing different there. No, I do not want to be demographically replaced. And you're not going to be. Because Rupert Lowe, have you people actually read his policies? Or are you just posting out of complete ignorance on this? Right? Because if you look at Rupert Lowe's policies, he's going to create an atmosphere where these people will self-deport themselves. He's going to ban halal and kosher slaughter. Yeah? That's going to make a vast amount of these people, it's going to make it impossible for them to dominate. Yeah? They're going to self-deport themselves. He's going to ban the burqa. He's going to ban the hijab. He's going to create an environment where these people simply can't practice their religion to the extremes that they want to do. Yeah? Well, in that case, then, why are you making these arguments out of ignorance then? If you've read his policies, you should understand what he's saying. And that's a big issue with all of this. It's just people not looking at what Rupert Lowe has actually said. And they're just looking at 20-second clips of videos and not checking out what he's actually said on things. And this is Landuer is a prime example of this. All these arguments he's making in this video have already been cleared up by Rupert Lowe in a podcast. So he's not done his research, has he? I'm just saying. It's obvious.
And everyone's like, what the hell? What's going on? Give me a break.
Not everyone, just you and a few others. Not everyone is confused by this. I think it was all cleared up last week. And myself and others were saying, what are you getting to a flap over this for? There's no reason to get in a flap over this. We know what his stance is on these things. And, you're coming out and claiming that you've defended him in the past, and yet you don't seem to know anything about what he stands for. It's a bit odd.
Come on, there's no way he doesn't understand this. And look, I don't even think that what Rupert said actually makes sense. He said, I don't have a problem with multiculturalism as long as people integrate. Well, what does that even mean?
Obvious, isn't it? He's setting himself up for the mass deportations. I've got no issues with multiculturalism so long as they integrate, because he knows full well that they haven't. It's a tactical move, and you can't see it. Rupert Lowe is aware that these people haven't integrated into our society. He knows there are little colonies of a certain demographic up and down the country that have changed the demographics of towns and cities. He knows they haven't integrated. So he says, I've got no problems with multiculturalism so long as they integrate. So when you look at the second part of that and realize they haven't integrated, you come to realize that he doesn't believe in multiculturalism because he knows they haven't integrated. It's not hard to understand. It really isn't, to understand his reasoning behind this. Yeah, exactly. And don't you think Rupert knows this? He's done in-depth studies. He's got all this information to hand about how they've not integrated into our society. And he's even said this, you know, all those people that haven't integrated, they're going to be deported. Yeah, the people that haven't integrated are going to be deported. This is a caveat in his mass deportations policy, isn't it? Got to integrate, got to respect our culture and our traditions. Can you say that about a certain demographic in our culture, in our country? They don't respect our culture. They don't respect our traditions. They're trying to force their own culture and their traditions onto us. So henceforth, him saying that gives him the ability to then say, yeah, that's why I'm going to mass deport them all, because they haven't integrated. It's a way of avoiding the trap, but you didn't understand what he was doing. Yeah. And don't forget, this was in relation to a criticism of the king. And a lot of people brought this up. It's not going to end well for anybody, any MP that is openly criticising the king on a social media platform, in an interview or anything like that. They want to stay clear of that. And that's what he was trying to do. That's why he softened the language in that instance. Yeah, when he says, oh, you know, the king, like, the question was, you know, was talking about the king likes multiculturalism and all that kind of thing. Rupert Lowe said that, if you looked at the clip before it, in context, right? This was a question about the king liking multiculturalism. And that's why Rupert Lowe responded with, I've got no issues with multiculturalism, so long as they integrate. If you realise what he was saying, you'd realise it was actually an attack, not a endorsement of multiculturalism.
Does that mean that the foreigners who come here integrate into our culture? Well, that's not multiculturalism then, is it?
Yeah. How many have integrated, though? We look at London. It's become an absolute third world shithole. So they've not integrated, have they? So that would fall under Rupert Lowe's deportation policy. If you've not integrated, you're leaving, you're going. Yeah? So that's answered that question as well.
If they surrender their own culture from their homelands and integrate into ours, then that wouldn't be multiculturalism anyway. That would be monoculturalism, but whatever. I also just don't even think that that's realistically possible anymore. I don't think that there is enough of a dominant culture left in this country. The reason for that is that the numbers have been so great and so fast that it's completely obliterated any sort of dominant host native culture. Why? Because
I think he's completely wrong about that. He's wrong about that. I think our culture and our traditions are still very strong. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. The Patriot movement wouldn't exist. Restore Britain wouldn't be surging forward the way it is if we didn't have a strong culture or a strong sense of tradition. You know what? All those young lads out there, those young white lads, they're crying out for identity and a culture. And Restore Britain is giving it to them. And they're lapping it up because they've been told for decades and generations. Again, we're going back to that speech that Rupert Lowe gave to the younger generation, saying, don't be ashamed of who you are. Be proud of who you are and your culture and your traditions. So he's trying to invigorate that. He's breathing on the embers of that. He's reinvigorating patriotism and nationalism in this country. So it's still live and kicking. That's why we're fighting. If it wasn't strong, nobody would be fighting. It'd be over. It's not over. We can get it back. We can't be defeatist. That's what we're fighting for. That's why we're going to take back the country and restore Britain. Yeah, I don't agree with him on that either. What do you think, chat? I don't agree with that at all. You know, he's saying that I don't think we've got a strong culture or a strong sense of, you know, who we are. I believe we have. Luckily, Gen X still exists in this country, and we definitely have a strong sense of self and, you know, pride in our culture and our country. 100% we do. I think we're the ones that are probably going to drag this back from the brink, because unfortunately, if this is what we have to represent the newer generations, then the country is screwed. If they actually believe that our country is done and dusted and over, then what the hell are we fighting for? I think he needs to give his head a wobble on that one, to be honest with you. Very true. I'm Gen X. Born 1974. Gen Xer, through and through. Let's celebrate the Gen X, shall we? You know, we drank from hose pipes in the back garden. We stayed out until the street lights came on. We were tough. We fell off our bikes. We grazed our knees. You know, when you went in the house and you grazed your knee and you fell off the bike, you just get. If you're lucky, you got some magic cream, or you're just told to, you know, bugger off and stop bothering your parents. Get out there and, you know, rub some dirt into it. You'll be all right. Yeah, that's what we were told to do. We weren't mamby-pambied. We weren't mollycoddled. Yeah. Yeah, TCP magic cream. For God's sakes, right? Me and my friends, we used to shoot rockets at each other out of asbestos tubes that we'd found on an old abandoned building site because we were playing war. That's Gen X for you. Yeah, it may have been stupid, but that's Gen X. Yeah. We weren't wrapped up in cotton wool or bubble wrap. You know, we used to play, we used to build tree houses, we used to fall out of trees, we used to break our arms, break our legs. At the end of the day, we used to come home and we'd be happy. So, yeah, you're welcome. I think it's Gen X that is going to save this country, to be honest with you. We're going to have to wake these people up and say, you've still got something to be proud of, lads. You know, and that's thanks to us because we've clung on to it.
Because the dominant host native English people are being demographically replaced at an unprecedented scale and speed. And we know that this is...
Yeah, so Restore Britain is the one that's going to stop it. So where have your criticisms of Rupert Lowe? We want to get to that, don't we?
It's happening, right? I mean, England today is about 65% English. If you look at births in this country, only about 50% of them are to English mothers. So if you have children today as an English couple, your children are probably going to be a minority. Depends. I mean, if you have them today, maybe not. If you have them next year, probably.
Yeah, we're going to be a minority in our own country in 10 years, unless we reverse this, unless we do something. And this is why I keep saying, Restore Britain is our last hope to stop this. Yeah, before we go down a completely different dark route. And we all know where that goes. Yeah. So him coming out and making these videos like he's doing is only hurting the movement, because it's not like he's giving some legitimate criticism. These are already criticisms that have been addressed last week.
Probably. So the English people are being replaced in this country. And look, that's what the
Yeah, and water is wet.
ethno-nationalists have a problem with. If you don't...
It's not just ethno-nationalists. I wish they stopped using that term, ethno-nationalist. You're a nationalist. This is what nationalists have a problem with. This is why we're fighting this battle in the first place. It's not just ethno-nationalists, it's all nationalists. We're all fighting the replacement of ourselves in our own country.
Want the English people to become a minority in England, if you think that the English ethnic group have a right to stay the majority of people in the...
And that's what Rupert Lowe is doing. So I don't get your point here.
Land, the nation, England, then you are an ethno-nationalist of sorts.
No, you're a nationalist. You're describing nationalism. Your term of ethno-nationalist is a construct of lefties to put you in a little tiny box so they can demonize and beat you with sticks and rhetoric. That's why I choose not to use it. I've already said this already. You wouldn't call yourself a cis male, would you? You just call yourself a male. The same way I don't call myself an ethno-nationalist. I'm a nationalist because I refuse to use the lefty term that they've created for me. And this is where a lot of people like you and others are falling into the trap. You're choosing the label that's been prescribed to you by lefties. And whenever you do that, they will constantly attack you. They've found the chink in the armor. They know now that every time they get Rupert Lowe and ask him about ethno-nationalism and he condemns it, they know now that you lot are going to kick off. So the way you can defeat that in the future is say, well, I'm not an ethno-nationalist, I'm a nationalist. Stop using their terminology. Stop using the terms of your enemy. We shouldn't be using the term like that. It's fallen into the same trap as Rupert. Yep. The lefties know, and Reform know. They know now that all they have to do is get Rupert to talk about ethno-nationalism, and they can keep stirring this up all the time. But, you know, Rupert Lowe's come out and clarified his position on that. So these people need to learn, right? Stop using the term and stop falling into the trap, because this is the second time you've done it now. You did it last week, and now you're doing it again this week because of the things that Tom Harwood has said. And they're believing Tom Harwood, of all people to believe Tom Harwood, that little snivelling shit stirrer from GB News, who's basically a lefty. Yeah, they've been made meaningless. The terms have been made meaningless by people. I stopped allowing words to have power over me a long time ago. You could call me racist or ethno, this ethno, this ethno, that. It's just words, yeah. Mate, I was going off subject to talk about Gen X. I was walking along an old factory roof and I fell off the roof into some razor wire. So we've all done stupid things. Gen X, we were explorers, we went out there. This is what I don't, this is probably for another live stream some other time, but my kids, you know, kids don't go out and explore anymore. They don't go out and play. Probably very young children do, but only in the back gardens. You know, when we were kids, we were out in the woods, the fields, everywhere. In the summer holidays, you go out into the field, you find your friends, they're all out there, they're building dens, they're building tree houses. The thing that they've got that we didn't have is social media and, you know, entertainment in a little square box. They don't have to go out and explore anymore now. It's all contained in a little tiny square in the palm of their hand. They don't need to go out and explore. They can just look it up. But it's not the same experience, is it? I'm going off a tangent. But yeah, that annoys me. It's just a different era, isn't it, to what we were brought up in.
Ethnic group, English, nationalism, England, right? So I think the vast majority of people hold some degree of sympathy with ethno-nationalist ideas. I certainly do. I don't want me or my children to become a minority in their own homeland. Why would I? That just doesn't even make sense.
See, he's still talking about ethno-nationalism, but we've already cleared this up, that Rupert Lowe was talking about the extremes. If he wants to use the term ethno-nationalist, then he has to understand that would be on a scale. It's on a spectrum. So you have your moderates, you have the extremists. So Rupert Lowe said, I detest the far right. So at that point, you know which section of the ethno-nationalism he's talking about. He's talking about the extremists, yeah, which I've already covered, which I've already stated, that the actual far right, they're not massive. They're a tiny, tiny percentage of the nationalist movement. They're non-existent. They wouldn't fill a small car park. Yeah.
No, I'm not comfortable with that. Yes, I do oppose that.
Right now at B&Q and Trade Point, save up to £600 on bathrooms.
So at this point, I was thinking, well, should I make a video about this? You know, calling out some of these weird comments. And I thought, no, I'll let the dust settle, because at the end of the day, I still trust Rupert, although that trust is being...
Yeah, but surely by now, you said you've ignored this last week, but surely by now, you must know that Rupert's come out and addressed everything that you've mentioned in this video already. He's cleared up the ethno-nationalism thing. That was cleared up last week. He cleared up the multiculturalism thing last week. So why are you making a video now? Unless you're ill-informed and you haven't done your research on what you're talking about. That's the only reason you've been making this video right now.
Being tested on the daily. And I also have the utmost trust in the younger guys in this team. And I'm talking about Charlie Downs, Harrison Pipp, Lewis Brackpool, Maria. Really good people. Okay, so I trust them. The party is bigger than just one man. Let's just see where this goes. Until yesterday, we got this from Tom Harwood of GB News.
Oh, you're kidding me.
He posted,
Jesus effing Christ. This is what I'm talking about, guys. About how these people just take these people on the word. It's like he's done no research on this. No research at all, or he hasn't waited to see what the response is going to be. I know there's been a response now, apparently. Rupert said this is nonsense. And like I said in my morning walk video, Rupert Lowe is not going to keep constantly coming out to clarify things. Yeah? Maybe Tom Harwood wants Rupert Lowe to engage in a little spat with him. Maybe that's what he wants. Maybe Rupert Lowe's avoiding the trap because, I'm not going to address this, because he assumes that his followers, he assumes members of Restore Britain have got an ounce of intelligence in them that his audience understands that this is absolute bullshit. Because this was covered last week. Yeah? Oh, it's unbelievable. I can't believe you're bringing up Tom Harwood as a source for your points.
Chatted with Rupert Lowe last night at the Spectator party. Interestingly, he said he detests ethno-nationalism and has had to stamp on the young ethno-nationalists in his party. And then someone commented saying, well, did Rupert say who he had stamped on? And the answer apparently was Charlie Downs. Now, look,
Why are we making the assumption that this is true? Why isn't your first logical thought in your head thinking, this is Tom Harwood? This is a known shit stirrer. He's also affiliated with GB News. He's also affiliated with Reform. Don't forget, this is the same person, Tom Harwood, who told Rupert Lowe that he couldn't be interviewed on GB News because it was an election cycle, which was absolute nonsense and lying. He's a liar. And you're taking his word at face value without doing any research or waiting for an actual response to this. Unbelievable. I can't honestly believe he's using Tom Harwood as a source.
I don't know if this is true.
So why are you bringing it up then? Why, if you think that it might not be true, why are you getting upset by it? And why are you bringing it up in a video? Don't get
like
it.
GB News for the most part, okay, because I like some of the presenters, Ben Leo, Patrick Christis. I think they're good. And I think the GB News channel in general is a net positive for the country, but
I don't think it is. I don't think it is at all. I don't think it's a net positive. I think it's a controlled mainstream news channel that's pretending to be a nationalist news channel when it's not really, when you actually look at it behind the scenes. Yeah. So I disagree with that as well.
we have to be realistic. They are very pro-reform. They don't really like Restore very much. And so could Tom Harwood be shit stirring? Yes, certainly possible. The problem is, it's the exact same thing that Rupert had said about 10 days prior.
It's already cleared up. He's already got there, right? He's already got there. He's there in the critical thinking stage, right? This is all bullshit because these people have done nothing but try and demonize Rupert Lowe and Restore Britain. Yeah. Oh God, it's so frustrating, guys. It's frustrating for me to watch this because he's just not making the connections, is he? He's not making the logical. He's not making these logical connections in his arguments. It's like all this was cleared up last week, and if you've watched those podcasts where Rupert Lowe came out and talked about ethno-nationalism, he talked about multiculturalism, you would have known straight away that what Tom Harwood was doing was shit stirring and was trying to get a rise. God, it's so frustrating. God, I don't know, guys. And this is the issue, right? This is the trouble because he's got a massive platform. And I've been looking at some of the comments on his video and everybody's behind him. And he's using his platform to keep spreading this misinformation because it is misinformation now. This has all been clarified last week. So he's basically tearing the plaster off the wound again and opening up the wound for Restore Britain. And this is why I said in my morning walk video this morning, right? This is why these people need to make a decision, right? They're either on board with Restore Britain or they're not. Because to be honest with you, I think these people will be better off outside the movement and not supporting Restore Britain. Because if they're going to keep doing this stuff and not making and not researching what they're saying, they're more of a liability than they are of a help. That's all I think about this. Yeah. I can't believe that he said GB News is God. Oh. Okay, no, guys.
Oh, excuse me. And at any point, Rupert could go on video or go on Twitter and just say Tom Harwood is lying. That conversation.
Yeah, but he shouldn't have to. He shouldn't have to keep doing this. Why does he have to keep reaffirming your trust in him? You've said you've supported him all along. You should know his stance on things in and out. So when you enter into a debate or you see his enemies making these claims, then you should be able to come out and actively defend him and say, no, that's rubbish. You should be the one countering this misinformation with your platform. That's what you should be doing. If you'd have done your research, that's what you would be doing. You'd be saying, no, this is total rubbish. Don't believe this, everyone. This is just Tom Harwood coming out and shit stirring again. But because you've not done your research and you're second guessing your loyalty to Restore Britain, because I assume you remember, you're second guessing yourself all the time, and the constant reaffirmation that your choice to back Restore Britain was the right one, that you're making these videos right now. This is why I said in my morning walk video this morning, make a choice. You're either with Restore Britain or you're not. Fair enough. I've got nothing against anybody criticising Restore Britain, yeah, or Rupert Lowe, constructively, based on an informed argument, which yours isn't. It's not informed at all. I've already proven that. It's a joke. Look at the chat. Vindicated defender Rupert saying, I don't multiculturalism as long as they integrate. You haven't understood this, have you, all? And you know what? I've had enough of you, yeah? Because I think you're just here to stir things up. You're not here to be to do anything constructive. You're just here to stir things up, yeah? Last warning. Because that Ranger guy is just as ignorant as this guy. He is. I think I had you on the channel, didn't I, Ranger? I did. You were very nice when you came on the channel and had a chat. It is you, isn't it, Ranger? It is you. Yeah, I recognise you now. Because I understand that when Rupert Lowe talked about multiculturalism, it was actually an attack on multiculturalism. You don't seem to understand that, mate. He was talking about when King Charles said that he was an advocate of multiculturalism, and Rupert Lowe's response to that was, well, I've got no issues with multiculturalism so long as they integrate. We all know they haven't integrated. So that was an attack on multiculturalism, not an endorsement of it. And it seems people like you are just too thick to understand that. And I'm sick of it, tired of explaining it. Yeah? Some people I keep calling this guy names. He's free to have he's free to have his opinion, but he's trying to disrupt the chat on the live stream with what he's saying. That's what he's trying to do. So he's been timed out. That's the mod timing him out. Yeah, he's been warned several times not to do it. This isn't about what he wants to talk about. This is about Landuer and his argumentation today. He's tried to make this the chat and trying to disrupt the chat about other things. I don't mind constructive debate in the chat, but he's deliberately trying to turn the live stream onto another subject, and it's not happening. Yeah, and that my mods have got my uttermost respect and support. Their decision, yeah, in the chat. Their job is to keep the flow of the chat going and to stop people trying to turn the chat away from what's actually being discussed in the live stream. That's their job, and they're just doing their job. Yeah. He's entitled to his opinion. He's got his own YouTube channel. He can go into his own YouTube channel and make as many videos as he likes about this subject. This isn't what this live stream is about. This is entitled, the live stream is entitled Addressing Landuer, not discussing the ins and outs of multiculturalism and stuff. Yeah. We've already covered that. And he keeps going back onto old questions that we've already talked about and discussed. And he just doesn't seem to understand the concept of what was going on. Yeah. Good. I'm not making fun of the Landuer guy at all. I've not called him any names. Yeah, that's what they do. They try to come in the chat. They try to disrupt the chat and turn it to what they want to talk about. And it's not happening. And my mods are really great. I've got Dave. I've got Spawn when he comes into the chat. They do a really good job. Right, let's get back to this.
Ever happened, and that hasn't happened, right? And I would think that if it was completely false, you would want to do that, because Tom Harwood is saying that there's an internal dispute in the party and that Rupert is having to reprimand Charlie Downs. Now, if that's completely false and that conversation had never happened, as I say, you would expect.
Well, let's use some logic here, right? Because this has been brought up. Why would Rupert Lowe talk about disciplinary action within the party to a journalist? Not just any journalist, a journalist that is potentially part of the political opposition to the party, of his party, Restore Britain. Why would he do that? This is where logical and critical thinking come in, which would make you think this is rubbish. Why would Rupert Lowe talk about disciplinary procedures to a journalist? He wouldn't, would he? It's not in Rupert Lowe's character. I think we know enough about Rupert Lowe to know that he wouldn't do that to Charlie Downs. Yeah? We have to use some critical and logical thinking of our own when we look at these things. It's not always down to Rupert Lowe to come out and clarify things. It's down to us as the individuals to assess whether we believe this is true or not. And that's what I did. And it's what you should have done. You should think, yeah, all this is just horse shit. It's designed to form a wedge within the support base of Restore Britain. And look at when all these things came out about multiculturalism and the ethno-nationalism thing. It was all pushed by reform shills. I tracked back where all this information came from. This was all going on during the Makerfield by-election. Now, most people would have put two and two together and thought, you know what? They're doing this to try and smear Rupert Lowe and Restore Britain during a by-election to put an MP in Parliament. It's a tactical approach, a smear campaign to smear them. But people like you and others didn't come to that conclusion. Yeah, you're just 50 minutes on, 50 minutes behind. Gen X used to play Disused Quarry. Yeah, did that as well. Right, let's carry on.
expect that Rupert would want to shut that rumor down straight away because it doesn't look good, it doesn't reflect well on the party. But no, nothing, right? So
maybe he's just tired of clarifying it for people. If he thinks people haven't got the message by now, then they never will. Or he attributes a certain amount of intelligence to his membership and his audience to think, you know what, they'll do their own research. They're intelligent people, they'll do their own research. I don't need to come out and keep clarifying this. And not to mention the fact that he's been consistent all the way through Restore Britain forming about his stance on things. You know, it was only 3 weeks ago, before this multicultural thing came out, that he was talking on the Dan Wootton show about multiculturalism and how it was a poison to our society. Now, everybody that watched that and then watched that thing on multiculturalism would have known what he was doing, but you didn't because you're not informed on it. If you're going to be a political commentator, then you have to stay current on everything that you're talking about. If you want to come out and defend Rupert Lowe and support Restore Britain, then you should be current on everything that's being said about the party or everything that Rupert Lowe is saying about things. Otherwise, you're going to come out and make yourself look silly in videos like this.
Ordinarily, I would be inclined to not believe Tom Harwood, but there are other circumstances at play. You guys are going to have to make your own mind up.
What circumstances? What are the circumstances at play? You can't just say there are other circumstances at play and then not mention them.
You know, as I say, it's very similar to what he was saying a few days before on a podcast. So,
and that's all been clarified now. You know what? This is a video that should have come out last week. And the very thing that's come out this week is very odd. I could have, you know what? I could have actually understood this video last week, but not this week. Not after everything Rupert Lowe's come out and clarified. Because a video this week, with all this in it, is just pure ignorance. It's ill-informed, it's arguing out of ignorance, and it's like, you've already stated at the beginning of the video that you ignored a lot of it. And that's the reason why you're making this video, because you did ignore a lot of it. Looks like you ignored everything that Rupert Lowe said about this. And it looks like you're not very informed about Rupert Lowe's stance on things. It looks like you're not very informed on Restore Britain's policies on things either. So how can you talk about it in an educated, informed way? I'm just saying. Dan Wootton is talking about this now, says Tom has lied about Rupert. Right, okay. There you go then. See, if he had just hanged fire and waited for the clarification, Rupert Lowe's a very busy man. Do you really think he's got time to come out and keep clarifying things for people? He's running a party. He's in Parliament. He's just done a grooming gang inquiry. He's trying to bring about prosecutions, private prosecutions, for some of the people involved in this. He's a very busy man. Do you really think he's got time to keep coming out and clarifying this for people that are just too lazy? Because that's what this is. This is what you are. You're just too lazy to do your own research. You want him to come out and clarify everything for you instead of you doing some of the legwork and going, you know what, I'm going to go and research this and find out what's really been said. And I'll try and find some counter arguments, maybe to defend Rupert. But you've not done that.
yeah, there's another point I wanted to bring up here as well, and it's kind of a minor point, but why are you at the Spectator Garden Party? Because I very clearly remember a year ago, Rupert replying to a journalist saying that he wasn't interested in going to their journo booze-ups in London.
Have you ever thought, right, that his stance might have changed since then? Because this is another perspective you can look at this, right? A lot of people always jump, well, people like Landuer and others, all these other people that are with him on this, they've all been jumping to this one asserted thing that they're thinking, right? They think that, oh, he's trying to get on board with reform. He's trying to get in with the establishment. Have you ever thought, right, that maybe Rupert may be doing recon of his own? He may be going into the lion's den to find out what the lay of the land is regarding things. Yeah, using these events to his advantage to find out certain information about people or things that are going on. Or maybe it's just to promote cross-party cooperation with stopping these routes that the Labour Party is planning to implement. Maybe he's networking. Maybe he's trying to find allies. Maybe he's not trying to join the establishment. And we all saw the pictures of him with Matt Goodwin, where it looked like he was having a very heated debate with him. Maybe he went there to challenge people that have been saying things about him in the newspapers and stuff, because that's what Rupert Lowe's character's like. What's his character like? Do you really think that Rupert Lowe is going to sell us all out? Do you think that's in his character, or do you think it's more like he's gone to this event to challenge people on their views about him? It's just another way of looking at it, not just, oh, he's joining the establishment, because I don't believe that for a second.
London, and yet fast forward a year, and here we are. You're there. So why? What's changed? It's not like they're giving you positive press coverage, right? The Spectator,
Yeah, there you go.
have written all sorts of negative articles about.
Maybe he's gone there to challenge them. Again, it's not critical thinking, is it? You're not thinking. You know, Restore Britain is becoming very, very popular. It's rising in the polls. Maybe he's gone there to challenge them. That's what Rupert Lowe's character is. He doesn't care. He doesn't care what people think about him. And he wouldn't think twice about going there and challenging these people. Did you watch the interview at the Makerfield by-election when they were about to announce the results? Did you see him tearing strips off that news reporter? Did you watch that interview that he was doing there? So maybe he's doing the same thing that he was doing there. Maybe he was going to this to actually go and have debates with people, to pull them up on the things they've been saying about him, to challenge them. You always jump to the conclusion that, oh, he's trying to sell us out perspective, rather than maybe thinking about it and thinking, you know what, maybe he's going there to challenge his enemies. I'm just saying. What? So Vin is a leftist. Why am I a leftist? I don't think I'm a leftist, to be honest with you. I'm a lefty, apparently. Okay. So you think the far right don't exist? They do exist. They're a tiny minority. And the fact that you're offended by the term far right, that there's nothing wrong with acknowledging the fact that the far right do exist, just like the far left they exist. Yeah? The far left are massive, though. They're huge. The actual far right are a tiny, insignificant proportion of the nationalist movement. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging that or being honest about that. Yeah, fuck off. Anybody that's calling me a leftist, right? You just trying to stir the pot, and you're gone. Yeah. Vindicated. Well, I suppose you would turn far enough to the right that you end up facing left. But being a leftist now, not a chance. Thank you. Yeah, anybody who's watched my previous videos where I've stood toe to toe with Antifa and stuff like that will probably know, yeah, I'm not a leftist. It's a leftist term. You've had a go for using leftist terms. You've literally used a leftist term, far right. Do you understand, right, that that politics is on a spectrum, right? So I feel ashamed that I have to explain this to people, right? So the politics is on a spectrum. So you've got the centre ground, right? You've got the centre right, the centre left. Then you've got the left wing. Then you've got the right wing, and then you've got the far left and the far right. Those aren't leftist terms. That's just describing politics on a spectrum. All right? Okay, now. Can't believe I'm having to explain these simple terms to people.
About Restore Britain. The owner of the Telegraph was there as well, and he's also written plenty of, not him personally, but the Telegraph have written plenty of negative stories about Restore Britain. So it's not like these people like you, or they respect you, or they're even in any way helpful to the party. So
you're making all these assumptions of why he's gone there. You're thinking, well, he's gone there. Why have you gone there? Because they don't like you. Maybe that's the reason he's gone there, because they don't like him.
So what are you doing there? Why are you rubbing shoulders with Morgan McSweeney, Keir Starmer's previous chief of staff? Look, we're in such a crazy situation.
See, we could use the term. We could say this, couldn't we? Why do you go to the House of Parliament? Why do you go to the House of Parliament? Because you're rubbing shoulders with the Labour MPs, the people you don't like. You could use that as well. You don't know the reason why he's gone there. I don't know the reason he's gone there. Yeah, but my opinion is just as valid as yours, that he's gone there to go. And what's more likely? Has he gone there to sell out, or has he gone there to challenge the people that have been writing all these hit pieces about him? Just saying.
In this country where politics is not a game. It is not a game. You can't be rubbing shoulders with the enemy at this point. Like, if you truly believe that
this is what I mean, right? This is the trouble with these people. They think they're the enemy. You can't have conversations with them. Just shut down all conversation. Of course, he's got to have debates. He's got to have debates with these people. He can't just call them the enemy and then not have any interactions with them whatsoever. Can he? Yeah. It's just he doesn't understand politics. Debates take place in these places. People can't, even though they probably disagree on a lot of things, people can have civil debates on things and have different politics and still go to these events. Yeah. You do know that there's a bar in Westminster, in Parliament, where all the MPs go after Parliament and rub shoulders with each other. They're all chatting and talking, probably debating. I think you've just got a very naive look at what politics actually is.
the country is on the precipice of failure, which Rupert claims to, then why are you going to booze-ups with the same people who have been the architects of this impending doom?
Rupert, why are you going to by-elections with people that have wrecked the country? Why are you going into a parliament building and sharing the same air as people who've wrecked the country? Because those arguments that I've just made are just as valid as Landuer's. They've got no weight to them.
It just doesn't make sense. I don't get it. Look, maybe in the comments...
Yeah, that's probably the most honest thing you've said in this video. You don't get it because quite obviously you don't.
To say, well, actually he has to do it for this reason and this reason. Fine, whatever. It wouldn't be me, okay? That's all.
And that's the point. That's why you're not an MP. You wouldn't do it. And you wouldn't be a very effective MP. That would have been a great way to find out intel on different things, on what different stances are on things. Information. Information is firepower. Knowledge is firepower, especially on your enemy. Yeah? You should know this with being like an army officer. You know, intelligence is key. You're not going to get intelligence by labeling everybody the enemy and not interacting with them, are you?
Saying I find it very, very bizarre that he was even there in the first place.
I don't find it bizarre at all. Well, let's play. We'll watch this. We'll have a look.
I care about this so much, and there are two reasons. First, we're in such a crazy situation in this country where politics is not a game. It is not a game. You can't be rubbing shoulders with the enemy at this point. Like, if you truly believe that the country is on the precipice of failure, which Rupert claims to, then why are you going to booze ups with the same people who have been the architects of this impending doom? It just doesn't make sense. I don't get it. Look, maybe in the comments someone wants to say, well, actually he has to do it for this reason and this reason. Fine, whatever. It wouldn't be me, okay? That's all I'm saying. I find it very, very bizarre that he was in there in the first place. Now, you might be wondering why I care about this so much, and there are two reasons. First of all, because I know that a significant chunk of the Restore Britain base, and I don't know what the number is, but it's a significant portion. It's not all of them. They probably think they're more than they are, and Rupert probably thinks they're less than they are. But let's say it's 15, 20%, whatever. They are ethno-nationalists, okay?
Stop using that term. You're nationalists.
And I'm going to be honest, yeah, I'm one of them. Not in the same sense as someone like Steve Laws. I don't believe in total remigration.
So you understand there's a spectrum then? You understand there's a spectrum in ethno-nationalism. And so when Rupert Lowe came out and said, I detest the far right and the extreme ends of nationalism, the people that do want to deport everybody, the people that are the fans of the Austrian painter and the goose stepping and all that kind of stuff, the cosplayers we see at protests trying to latch themselves onto certain protests to make them look bigger than they actually are. He was talking about those people, not you, Landuer, was he? And you understand that. The thing is, the odd thing is you understand that. You understand that if you're on, if you use the term ethno-nationalist and it's on a spectrum like all politics, then you would class yourself as a moderate, yeah? Just a nationalist. The fact that you've made that definition, I don't know what word I'm going to use, but the fact you've done that just proves that you understand what Rupert Lowe's saying.
You know, I'm not saying every single foreigner has to leave the country, right?
That's exactly what Rupert Lowe is saying. So what's your problem with him?
But do I believe that it's acceptable for the English to become a minority in England? No, absolutely not.
No, and Rupert Lowe said that as well. So what are you talking about? What has this video been about? You basically made a video calling out Rupert Lowe, saying criticising on things that have already been cleared up. And it seems like you're making a video actually agreeing with what Rupert Lowe is actually saying. And the fact is you're ignorant of it. You don't know what he said. So you think you're making a video being critical of him, when in a matter of fact, you're making a video actually agreeing with him on everything. That's what's happening here. For this, I'm just having a look at some of the comments. Lads, keep the chat going. What happened to understand that from the beginning? They will try and tear, restore, and or support every chance. And at the very first week attacks, they get freaking out. Yeah, but do you remember when Rupert Lowe was talking about this? When he said, "Right, we're going to get popular when we start rising in the polls, when we start putting our candidates into by-elections to try and return MPs to Parliament, the attacks are going to intensify." He stated that, didn't he? He told everybody to be prepared for it, and yet these people not prepared for it. They all fell at the first hurdle. They did. We all knew it was going to get tough. We all knew the hit pieces were going to come out. We all knew the smearing from Restore Britain shills would start coming out. And these people, he's done it in this video. Landuer has took Tom Harwood at face value on the things that he said, and then after the fact, he's come out and said, you know what, maybe he might be lying. Why has he even made this video? I don't understand. I don't get it. Okay, I said I don't want photos, but sadly I just did, as when you break this clown, and so it's clear he's now been got at. Do you really think so? I don't know. I'm not going to say for sure, because obviously to say that sort of thing, you need evidence of it. I don't think he's been got to. I think he's just generally ignorant of things. I do. I just think he's ignorant of the facts. That's what I think. I think he's made... Do you really think so? I don't agree. I think he's a product of the failed education system, and it shows. Oh Lord, it shows. Yeah. The thing is, right, somebody said this, I think somebody said this in the comments today, right? The one flaw in Gen X was we didn't educate the next generation properly. We didn't. We've allowed our education systems to be taken over by lefty idiots, and it's left us with the next few generations, the millennials and the Zoomers, basically, and Gen Z, with no critical thinking skills whatsoever. They haven't got the critical thinking skills that we have. They haven't. They can't research. I think this has proved it. This video has proved it. They don't do research. They expect everything to come to them. Everything has to come to them. Lord has said, Landuer said in this video that why doesn't Rupert Lowe come out and clarify these positions? Why hasn't he made a video when he should be asking of himself, well, why don't I go out and do research? Why don't I research these things before I make a video about it? Before I come on camera and, make myself look silly because I'm ill-informed on these things. He said it himself. He expects everybody to provide him with the evidence. He makes the claim, he makes the assertion, but he thinks the evidence should fall at his feet instead of going out there and researching what Rupert Lowe's actually said on things. If he'd have done all of that, he'd have realized that everything he's saying in this video has already been clarified 10 times over.
And so at least to that extent, I am an ethno-nationalist, but I would go further and I would actually say we need to be a supermajority in this country, which is totally the norm. Like anyone you ask in the world would say the same thing about their own country. My group needs to be the supermajority, right?
Right, let's clarify this, right? Because I'm kind of with Landuer on this one, right? In an ideal world, right, we should never have allowed immigration to get to a point where we're only at 75% of the majority in this country. We should never have allowed that to happen. If we'd have had reasonable leadership over the last few decades, that level of immigration should be kept at probably 95%. 95% of the population should be majority British white. It should be at 95%, not at 75%. But I appreciate that we're probably never going to get back to the 95% again. Now we can get to probably, I say we can probably get to 90% by creating an atmosphere, like Rupert Lowe says, an atmosphere that is unpleasant for people that won't integrate. If they want to come here and create little colonies of their own culture from the country they've just come from, then we can make it very difficult for them to do that. And we can bring in laws, we can do things, and we can actually, say, right, we can ban halal meat and kosher meat, we can ban the burqa and the hijab, to make it so that these cultures, they either integrate or they leave. And we know that these cultures will leave. They won't stay. Because they want to live their existence that they had in their previous countries in this country. And we simply cannot allow that to happen. All these little ghettos, all these little colonies that we see in Birmingham, Bradford, London, they all need to go. We need to return these towns and cities to majority English, Welsh, Northern Irish, Scottish cities again. That's what needs to happen. And that's going to be a gradual process. That's not going to happen overnight. I think people like Landuer and others, they think you can just click your fingers and make it happen. You can't reverse the damage of 3 decades of decay, decline, and damage in 5 years. You're going to need at least 10 years to do it. That's why it's important we get Restore Britain into power in 2029, so we can start reverting the process. If we can get the guy who's running for Restore Britain candidate in Manchester, we can start the process now as mayor. He can start the process now. If we've got to take back the country piece by piece, then that's the way we'll have to do it. Yeah. Yeah, 10 years and more. England's about 65% native now, and native children will be under 50% in about 3 years. Then it's over. We need 90% minimum. Stop the benefits, millions will self-deport. That's right. And that's exactly what Restore Britain's going to do. If you stop the incentives to come here, they'll self-deport. They'll go back to their countries of origin because the goodwill's dried up. And, this is things that Restore Britain can do on day one. They can stop the benefits day one. They can literally turn the boats back day one. They can stop the planes coming in. They can stop the legal migration, which is the biggest factor in all of this. The thing is, right, we're getting a city population, more or less, a medium-sized city population every year. There's at least, 600,000 people that come here legally, immigration-wise, every year. If we stop that, we can't sustain that. That's not sustainable for any amount of time, is it? 600,000 people a year, and you add the illegal immigrants that are coming across in the boats and all the Afghans and all that kind of stuff. We can't sustain that forever. Our infrastructure simply cannot cope with that. Something has to be done. We're reaching a critical point in this country. Our infrastructure is breaking. Look at you paying council tax through the nose, and are you generally getting a better service? You're not, are you? Everything, infrastructure all around the country is collapsing. They've had to start charging for the grass waste, your garden waste to be taken away, because they can't afford to pay for it anymore. There's simply not enough money to pay for things because they're running out of it. I wouldn't be surprised in next year's budget if they announce that the country is bankrupt, because we are bankrupt. They've run out of money. They're literally printing money to keep the system going. But that's a live stream for another day.
We can have a little bit of immigration. We've now had far too much. We can't have any more. But if you're talking about a country,
I'd agree with him on that. I've just said this. I agree with him on this. We've had way too much immigration. It's not about the illegal immigration. It's the actual legal immigration that's the issue, really.
Like Japan, they might say, look, yeah, we could have a couple of thousand people come here every year to fill very specific roles, but the Japanese must always maintain their majority over Japan. No one would bat an eyelid at that. Everyone would be like, yeah, of course, right? Because
I agree with him on this. This is sound argumentation. I agree with him on this. I normally do agree with him. I like his videos. It's just lately, it's on Twitter, he's lost the plot. And in certain parts of this video, he's lost the plot.
if the Japanese people became 50% of Japan, would it still be Japan? No, arguably not. So that's how I feel about it. So I consider myself an ethno-nationalist. I think England should be at least 90% English. I think, most people who support Restore probably would agree with that statement, right? And so I just think when you're attacking your own base like that, saying, it's not even just saying like, oh, this isn't the party position. You're saying I detest them. I'm
not going to keep going over this because, we've covered this already, but that's not what he said. If you want to know what I said about this that he's saying now, go back to the beginning of the live stream and watch it.
Detest those people. I just don't get it, man. It's stupid. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, I can only assume, right, that the pressure from the media articles, from the Daily Mail especially, they were pumping out tons of articles again.
The day has...
So he is aware of it. I don't understand, guys. I don't understand why he's making these videos. I don't understand why he's made this video. It just doesn't make any sense. The thing is, right, I'll say this, right, I've said this at the beginning, right, he's got a right to his opinion, but you're right about misleading his audience. Because he's misinformed, he's now misinforming his entire audience on this. Let's get back to the video.
This pressure has actually got to Rupert somehow, or pressure from his friends, his private friends, or whatever.
Nobody's got to Rupert Lowe. There's no pressure got to him. You know, this is what I mean. It's out of ignorance, because this has all been clarified last week.
Whatever it might be. And so he's just sort of caved a little bit, and he's pushing back to the left.
He's not caved. He's not pushing back to the left. If you actually understood his stance on things, you would know this.
And he's saying, you know, he's denouncing ordinary English people who are worried about the future of their...
Right, you've just admitted, right? So, earlier on in the video, just now, you've just said that you understand that ethno-nationalism is on a scale. You don't agree with Steve Laws, right? So you admit that because you're using the term ethno-nationalist, I'll use the term ethno-nationalist. So you call yourself a moderate ethno-nationalist, right? So you know yourself that Rupert Lowe isn't talking about all ethno-nationalists, don't you? So don't you assume that everybody else is the same as you, that they know that he's not talking about them? It's pretty much if the cap fits, wears it sort of situation, isn't it? You know, well, I'm not that sort of person, so he's not talking about me. Yeah? I think Rupert Lowe gives his audience way too much credit, to be honest with you, regarding intelligence.
The country and their children, and I hate to see it. And you've got to think as well, if you are caving at this point from media pressure...
Yeah, he's not caving to media pressure at all.
What do you think the media pressure is going to be like if you become the Prime Minister and you start doing what you said you were going to do, and you start deporting hundreds of thousands and millions of people? The media pressure is going to be absolutely insane. Things will go wrong at some point, in the same way they did in America, and the media will go into overdrive. There'll be a story. If you try and deport...
Right. If he thinks that Rupert Lowe's caving to media pressure, then he hasn't watched that interview he did with that Sky News presenter, has he? Where Rupert Lowe absolutely reduced him to a drivelling mess. So Rupert Lowe is definitely not going to collapse under pressure. If he was going to collapse under pressure, it would have been during those interviews he did at the Makerfield by-election. He didn't do that. So I don't think that's an assumption we can make. I don't think we can use that as a reason, that as an assumption as to why he said the things he said. We know why he said the things he said. He's clarified it already. Basically, you're making a video out of time. This is a video that should have been made last week, not today, given all the evidence that's out there now about what he said, how he's clarified his positions. You're making this video that you're making now purely out of ignorance of the facts of what Rupert Lowe said. And that's obvious from what you're saying.
You know, 2 or 3 million people, at some point, something is going to go wrong and somebody is going to get hurt. And we need someone, and I've always praised Rupert for his I don't care attitude, but we need someone who really actually embodies it, and they will just say, no, this is the task I was elected to achieve. We're going to press on with it. That's very tragic. It's very sad that that's happened.
That's what Rupert Lowe's doing. So just have a look at some of the comments, guys. See, I don't. I disagree with you, Ragbro, right? I don't understand why he's made this video, because this is a video purely made out of ignorance completely. Yeah? All this was cleared up last week. Rupert Lowe did a podcast, cleared it all up. It's obvious that Landuer hasn't watched it. Yeah?
We'll look into why it happened. We'll try and mitigate it in the future, but we're going to keep going with the task. You need someone who's not going to bow to the pressure.
He hasn't bowed to any pressure.
So if I see Rupert bowing now, I get very nervous.
He's not bowing to pressure, so why are you nervous?
And that's why I'm talking about this, even though it makes me very uncomfortable.
Well, it should make you uncomfortable because you've made this completely out of ignorance with no research, an absolutely, totally ill-informed position.
And I would prefer that everything was rosy and running on rails like it was straight after the Makerfield by-election. But
I can't believe you're saying this stuff. Oh, God, it's so frustrating.
hey, here we are. I will just add this. I think that Rupert Lowe has fallen victim of his own individualistic mindset. And I don't actually blame him for this because I think it comes very naturally to British people. But you cannot apply that individualistic mindset to the nation state. It doesn't work. And I'll explain.
Please, let me join your fleet, Cap.
Save it. You can't even pass level 2.
Hold on, I just found a solar panel and passed level 67.
Total fluke. You're gonna get completely wrecked.
Equip Mac, boom, level 999!
I'm wiping the whole space clean.
No way.
Imagine that I meet a guy from the Congo, right? So I don't really understand much about the Congo. I might be quite wary when I meet him at first because, you know, what do I know about the Congo? What do I know about this person? Nothing. But as we get talking, it turns out we've got loads in common. He's got a great degree. He's got a great job. Cool. Happy days. I like that guy, right? That's the individualistic mindset. I've met you as an individual. Sounds like you're doing great. Awesome. Happy. Do I hate you? Of course not, right? You cannot apply that same mindset when you're thinking about the nation state. It simply doesn't work for a bunch of reasons. First of all, you can't individually vet every foreigner in the country to work out if they actually hold the right values and if they're productive, et cetera, et cetera. There are some shortcuts you can take, right? You know, if they're on welfare or if they're serial criminals, then yeah, that's a pretty big indicator that they don't fit in here. But those people should already have been deported long ago anyway. The other thing is that if you genuinely think that as long as someone is upstanding and law-abiding and hardworking, they should be able to stay in Britain, well, that just leads to the destruction of your own country if you follow that ideal through.
Well, he's contradicting himself now because am I mistaken in saying that before he was saying I don't believe everybody should be deported, like Stephen Laws, but now he's making a case for everybody that everybody should be deported. It's disjointed. His argumentation is disjointed. He's contradicting himself now. Before he's saying, well, my position is I don't think everybody should be deported. Now he's making the decision that, well, you can't know if everybody's a good upstart citizen, so therefore you must deport all migrants. Is that the case he's making now? Nobody deserves my energy to hate them. What a twat Landuer is. Why is we need to give him time? Because we need to deal with this. We need to address this because he has a huge platform. It's not just his ignorance. He's passing this ignorance on to his audience who probably believe him, who most likely won't do their own research because normally this guy is a trustworthy source of information. On this instance, he isn't though. So it's important we come out and we challenge him on what he's saying to put the record straight, to show people, no, not on this occasion, he's not talking sense. That's why. Carry on.
And here's why. Take the population of India, 1.5 billion people. I think it's fair to assume, right, in India, that at least 5% of those people are hardworking, law-abiding, upstanding, have a good job, right? It's probably higher than 5%, but let's say 5%. If you truly believe that anyone who meets that criteria should be able to stay in Britain, well, then why aren't you opening the doors to 75 million Indians who meet that criteria? I mean, it could be 20%, right? So you could be looking at 300 million Indians that, you know, on your...
Because he's talking about the people that are already here. If you look at Rupert Lowe's policies, he's not read the policies. That's where this is coming from. It's blatantly obvious now that this guy has not read any of Restore Britain's policies. He hasn't, right? He's talking about the people already here. Yeah, what he's saying is, if you've integrated, if you follow our traditions, if you like our culture, and you're already here, then you're fine. You're paying your way, you're paying into the system, you're fine. And you agreed with that. You said earlier on in your video that you were okay. You didn't want to deport everybody, but now you're making an argument for deporting absolutely everyone. That's what it seems like to me. Your whole video is disjointed. It's all over the place. Doesn't make any sense. You talk about Rupert Lowe not making any sense. You're not making any sense in your argumentation. Am I going crazy, chat? Or are you thinking the same thing? Is everybody thinking the same thing? What's he on about now? Look at this comment. Paul Landuer, I believe, have been paid. I don't think that. I think they've all got their own agendas. I think that's what that is. Is everybody reading this the same way I am? Because he was making an argument earlier in this video saying that I don't want everybody deported. I don't want that. Now he's making the argument to deport everybody. It's basically just changed his mind in the next breath.
Your beliefs that as long as foreigners are hardworking and pay taxes and don't break the law, they should definitely be able to stay in Britain. On those beliefs, you're probably going to find that there's 1 billion people in the world who are eligible.
Yeah, but you're assuming that he wants to let more people in. He doesn't. He doesn't. He's talking about the people already here. He's saying if you've integrated, you pay your way, you pay your tax, you respect our traditions, our culture, respect the rule of law, then you're okay. He knows there are literally millions of people that don't. And those are the people he's going to deport. Those are the people that are going to feel very uncomfortable when he implements all his measures. You're assuming that because he said, oh, people who integrate are okay, you assume he's going to open up the floodgates. Where's he ever said that? He's never said that. Rupert Lowe has never said that. It's I don't understand what his argument is in this anymore.
Come to Britain. But if that makes you uncomfortable, opening the doors to everyone from anywhere, as long as...
Where is your evidence to say that he's saying open up the doors? Because he's not. He's specifically talking about the people that are already in the country.
They don't break the law and pay taxes. If that makes you uncomfortable, it's probably because you don't want to see your country ethnically destroyed. You understand that there are good people, you know, in different parts of the world, and that's fine. But deep down, you know, because...
Right, so basically, you do want to deport everybody then? You do want to deport everybody, every single migrant out of the country, regardless of who they are. Just say it. Why try and disguise your beliefs? Just say it. Be open and honest about what you want. Yeah?
It's completely natural that England should be the homeland of the English. I mean, it simply is, right? It's our ancestral homeland. Our ancestors built it. They built it for us. They didn't fight wars.
This is very much a video of two halves, and he's just contradicting himself now on his first part of his video. It's like, what? First you're saying, oh, I'm not as extreme as Steve Laws or any of those people. I don't believe everybody should be deported from the country. And now he's making an argument for deporting everybody. He's fine. He's all right. He can hold that opinion. I'm just trying to say that his argumentation is just all over the place with everything. It's like, what are you on about? I don't think he has. The way he's arguing from ignorance on this makes me think he's not read any of Restore's policies whatsoever, because I have. And that's how I know that what Rupert Lowe's been saying all along has been consistent, yeah, in everything that he said. Exactly. At no point has Rupert Lowe said open the door. He's very much against that. He's trying to reverse demographic change in this country. And you know what? If I don't get it, it's frustrating. It's like, don't you know what Rupert Lowe's been saying about demographic change in this country and how it needs to be reversed? And now he's talking about Rupert Lowe open the floodgates, something he's never said. It's like, what's he talking about? It looks that way, doesn't it? It definitely looks that way. I don't think he realized how bad this looks. Well, let's get back to it. We've got 17 minutes left.
Didn't build monuments so that it could be opened up in this weird globalist utopia to everyone from anywhere, and turn the country into a kind of global soup kitchen. It's not.
He's now making a straw man argument because Rupert Lowe's never said this. He's creating a straw man argument that Rupert Lowe's never actually advocated for, so he can knock it down. That's what he's doing here now. He's making a logical fallacy. It's a straw man argument because Rupert Lowe has never said that he wants to open the floodgates to India or anywhere. When Rupert Lowe was talking about people integrating, he was talking about the people that are already in the country. Law-abiding people that have accepted our culture, that embrace it, that have integrated. And he knows full well, Rupert Lowe knows full well, there are millions and millions of people that haven't integrated, that don't respect our rule of law, that don't respect our culture, that don't respect our traditions. And they're the ones that are going to be deported. There's been absolutely no talk about opening up the floodgates to the third world. Rupert Lowe wants to reverse that. And this guy claims to know what Rupert Lowe's about. He claims to be able to defend Rupert Lowe. And to do that, you need to know what the guy's about. And he doesn't. He doesn't know anything about what Rupert Lowe's stance is on anything. And he's proving that with every single argument he's produced in this video. It's just crazy. It's crazy to me. Get back to it.
Not why our ancestors built the country. It's not why it was bequeathed to us, and it's not what we should be passing on to future generations. Hopefully that makes sense. It's a little bit of a rant. The very last thing I'll say is this. I'm not in this video suggesting that Rupert Lowe should randomly do a U-turn and say, oh, you know what, I am actually an ethno-nationalist. No, he should have avoided the term altogether from the outset. Now, if you go and watch...
And so should you. You should have avoided the term as well. You shouldn't have used it, because ethno-nationalist is a term that the left will use you as a stick to beat you over the head with at every single opportunity. So by rejecting it, by rejecting the term that they created, you're removing their advantage, aren't you? You're taking it completely off the table. What? Right. So why would anybody, right, that's arguing against Islam accept the term that the left has coined, Islamophobe? Yeah. oh, I'm a critic of Islam. I'm an Islamophobe. I'm a proud Islamophobe. We reject that term because it's nonsense, and because we know that if we call ourselves an Islamophobe, the left will use it as a stick to beat us over the head with. It's a flawed tactic. So is calling yourself an ethno-nationalist, because they will do exactly the same thing with that term. They will use it as a stick to beat you over the head with.
Watch that Brett Weinstein interview. Brett himself didn't bring it up. Rupert was doing one of his traditional sort of long, winding answers to a question, and he just sort of dropped in there that he hates ethno-nationalists. And it's almost to me like he just wanted to get that point across. So he kind of just wormed it into an answer. It was a bit weird. But I'm not suggesting that Rupert goes out there and suddenly says, actually, I'm an ethno-nationalist, blah, blah, blah. He should just avoid the term altogether, right? That is the most obvious thing to do. And instead, what he should do is speak to the people who are not, you know, the most hardened ethno-nationalists, every single foreigner has to leave. Speak to the people who have concerns about demographics, about the changes that they are seeing in their towns and cities.
But you've just said you're a hardliner. According to you, you've just made an argument to deport everybody.
And try and explain to them that you understand what needs to be happening. Now, I made a post yesterday.
He's done that. He did that in the podcast last week.
It took me 60 seconds, right, to type this out. And I'm not kidding. I'll put it on the screen. I can't remember exactly what I said, but it was basically along the lines of, you know, oh, we're not an ethno-nationalist party.
The thing is, he's already clarified it, you muppet. This is the post I was talking about in my morning walk video, right? He's already done this. Every single point you make in this War and Peace style Twitter post, Rupert Lowe has already stated in various speeches and comments already. You're just too lazy to go and do your research and realize it's already been covered. It's already been said. Just have a look at the chat, guys. Sorry.
But we do understand the concerns that people have around demographics, around mass immigration, the results that they've seen from it, which is lower wages, worse results for white pupils in school.
He's already said all this. Why does he need to clarify this once again? Why does he have to reaffirm these things that you're putting forward that he's already said? It's in his policies. It's in his speeches. He's already said this. Just because you're ignorant of the facts doesn't mean he has to come out and clarify to you again. Unbelievable.
And obviously the grooming gangs and everything else. And so as a party, we will seek to reverse the worst excesses of mass immigration. Right? So,
he's already done this. Why do you think he's mass deporting people? Why do you think he's got a mass deportations policy? Because he wants to reverse mass immigration, wrongful mass immigration to people that should never have been allowed to come here. I'm telling you now, everybody, right? Everybody in the chat, he has not read Restore Britain's deportation policy. He knows nothing about Restore Britain. He doesn't. He's confirming it with everything he's saying. He knows nothing. That's unbelievable. That is that. I can't believe he's saying this. Wow. We all know that Rupert Lowe said all this stuff, don't we, right? This has already been covered. This has already been said by Rupert Lowe in various things, in his policies, in his speeches, in his online comments. The video is about him, the great Landuer, to boost his own ego, loves his harp about his university education. Well, I don't reckon much to his university education, put it that way. Can't believe it.
so you're speaking to those people You are hearing their concerns. You can just avoid the word ethno-nationalism altogether if you want to.
Why don't you avoid the word ethno-nationalism then? If you think it's such a toxic word, avoid it yourself. Why call yourself an ethno-nationalist if you know it's problematic? Just call yourself a nationalist. Yeah? And then you're taking that disadvantage off the table. You're taking that tactic off the table completely, so it can no longer be used against you. Can't believe I'm having to say this.
Right? Who cares? Nobody forced you to bring that up. Nobody specifically grilled you on that topic, on that word. But you could speak to the people and let them know that you understand their concerns, why they're terrified of the changes they're seeing in the country.
What are you on about? Right, guys, again, I've seen Rupert Lowe constantly addressing this. What is he talking about? He's talking like Rupert Lowe's never raised concerns about demographic change or talked about deportations or anything. What is he on about? What the hell? This is just crazy to me. It's like, what are you talking about?
And promise to do something about it. I mean, like I said, that took me 60 seconds to write. It's so easy, I think, to get the political messaging right. I usually don't do it because I don't think too much about the things I post.
Yeah, that's obvious. And it seems to me you don't think too much about the videos that you make either.
I post a lot, you know, and I just...
We have got to the point where literally anybody can build a fully working app without knowing how to code. This is base for...
Don't give it too much thought, as I said. But if you really do think about, you know, what's a message that's going to resonate well, and that I also believe, that's a very important point.
Does everybody remember Rupert Lowe's initial speech that he made to the nation when he launched Restore Britain? Everybody was celebrating it. I'll get it up. We'll have a look at it. We'll have a look. I think it's worth taking a look at, isn't it? Let's take a look at it, shall we? We'll actually take a look at the actual video that he did, right? Because this is from the very beginning. Let's get this on. Where are we? Where are we? We'll stop sharing this for a minute, and we'll share this. I think. Share it. There we go.
I have chosen to speak to you today from the farm because places like this represent what proper Britain is about. Hard work, responsibility, effort, duty, stewardship. This is the England I know, and this is the England that I love. On a farm, you don't think in election cycles or headlines or polling. You think in seasons. You think in generations, in what you leave behind to those who come after you. And that's why, here on the farm, I am now launching Restore Britain as a national political party. I'm now going to dedicate my life to finding, organizing, funding, and providing hundreds of qualified candidates to present to the British people at the next general election. This process has already started, with invitations being issued to patriots in aligned political parties, Reform, the Conservatives, the SDP, Advance, and more. In local politics, We will work in partnership with localized political parties, such as Great Yarmouth First, that have the best interests of their residents at heart, combining our forces at the next general election. The men and women standing for Restore in that election will not be politicians. I promise you that. They will not be failed ministers. They will not be tainted by failures of the past. They will be from business, from the military, from science, from medicine, from education, from industry, representing real communities up and down the country. Every single one will be from well outside the existing political establishment, and every single one will understand the difficult decisions that need to be taken, because there are no easy fixes. I'm not going to tell you comforting lies about the condition of our country. I have only ever been honest with the British people, and I will be straight with you now. What is necessary will be incredibly painful. But for the first time in a very long time, voters will have a genuine alternative which is truthful with them about the scale of what now has to be done. The first priority is to control who comes to our country, and more importantly, who stays in our country. Restore Britain will not just stop mass immigration, we will reverse it. Every single illegal migrant will be secure.
Right, so this is from the very first day of Restore Britain. And Landuer is coming out and saying, oh, I think Rupert Lowe wants to import all this rubbish. It's there in plain language. He's already stating it. We're not only going to stop mass immigration, we're going to reverse it. I'm just saying, yeah, it's already out there. It's already been said. But we're going to carry on. We're going to watch it all.
Securely detained and then deported. The message will be unrelenting. If you are in this country without our permission, you will be removed. For the foreseeable future, far more people must leave Britain than arrive. If a foreign national is unable to speak English, lives in social housing, claims benefits, refuses to work, fails to integrate, commits crime, or even actively hates our way of life and wishes to do us harm, then they must leave or be made to leave.
So now, that comment he made about multiculturalism, remember, when he stated, oh, I'm got no problems with multiculturalism as long as they integrate. That makes more sense now, doesn't it? Because he's saying it in plain language there. If you don't integrate, if you actively hate our culture, you will be deported. Now it puts that sentence in a completely different light, doesn't it? It shows you that it's not a defense of multiculturalism, but an attack upon it. Yeah?
Restore Britain will make our communities safe again for women and children. That I promise you. If that means millions go, then millions go. We're constantly told that the economy needs vast swathes of low-skilled migrants. We know that's simply not true. What we need is to get millions of healthy Brits back into work. A radical overhaul of how welfare is delivered. Protecting those in genuine need, but not funding healthy shirkers to live off the back of hard-working men and women. If you can work, you must work. It really is that simple. Restore Britain will be abundantly clear. If you consistently refuse work, then you will lose your benefits. We will punish indolence, and more importantly, we will reward success. We will provide vast economic incentives for men and women to start businesses, generate opportunities, build wealth, and create self-sufficient families. Standing here today on the farm, I know exactly what it means to deal with energy bills, labor shortages, regulation, unproductive paperwork, planning restrictions, tax, and endless uncertainty. The state has definitively become the enemy of the people. Restore Britain will burn away suffocating taxes on work and enterprise. We will slash unnecessary regulation. We will dismantle bloated quangos and the overbearing HR culture. We must crush parasitic Britain. We will restore long-term, stable, logical policy so that businesses can plan and invest and grow again. But Restore Britain is about much more than numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about who we are as a nation and who we are as a people. Britain is not just an economy. Britain is not just an idea. Britain is not just a passport. Britain is a nation. Britain is a people, our people. And Restore Britain will never allow that to be erased. We will celebrate our Christian heritage and the identity that built and shaped this country. Responsibility, restraint, forgiveness, duty, and faith.
So, when Landuer is saying, oh, he needs to address the concerns of the people, he did that in his very initial video, talking about all of this, putting people's minds to rest, setting out, like he says in this video, the mission philosophy of Restore Britain. It's all there in plain language. All you have to do is go and look at it, and then you know exactly what this man is about. And he has been consistent with this all the way through. He hasn't changed a single iota of what he said. He's been consistent. So I don't understand what Landuer is talking about when he says he needs to address people and make people, understand that he's going to change. Is concerned about demographic change. He stated it in this video. Didn't Landuer watch this? We'll carry on. We're going to watch it all. We'll watch it all because we're going to get the point across.
Fairness. In short, a high-trust society. That will mean defending our culture. That will mean resisting the relentless creep of radical Islam. That will mean banning the burqa, outlawing Sharia law, blocking cousin marriages, and reimposing our Christian-based rule of law. A Restore Britain government would legislate to ensure that no halal or kosher slaughter on British soil. This is Britain, and we will do things our way. This political party now exists for one reason: to restore Britain, to make it a better, safer, and more prosperous place for British men and women to raise their families. It will be difficult, and it will be painful, but I assure you, it is possible. I hope you will consider joining me on this journey and becoming a member of our party. It is our country. It is now our collective responsibility to act. Together, we will restore Britain. Thank you.
I don't think he could have said it in more plainer language, could he? He simply couldn't. Now let's go back. Let's go back now to Landuer's video, and let's repeat what he just said, yeah? On things. Right, now listen to this. This proves that this guy's ignorant, because Rupert Lowe has said all this in Restore Britain's first initial mission statement. Yeah? Hang on a minute. Need to share it again, don't I? Keep forgetting I need to share it. Right, there we go. We're back on.
Put it on the screen. I can't remember exactly what I said, but it was basically along the lines of, we're not an ethno-nationalist party, but we do understand the concerns that people have around demographics, around mass immigration, the results that they've seen from it, which is lower wages, worse results for white pupils in schools, and obviously the grooming gangs and everything else. And so as a party, we will seek to reverse the worst excesses of mass immigration, right? So you're speaking to those people, you are hearing their concerns. You can just avoid the word ethno-nationalism altogether if you want to, right? Who cares? Nobody forced you to bring that up. Nobody specifically grilled you on that topic, on that word. But you could speak to the people and let them know that you understand their concerns, why they're terrified of the changes they're seeing in the country, and promise to do something about it. I mean, like I said, that took me 60 seconds to write. It's so easy, I think, to get the political messaging right. I usually don't do it because I don't think too much about the things I post. I post a lot, you know, and I just don't give it too much thought, as I said. But if you really do think about, you know, what's a message that's going to resonate well, and that I also believe, that's a very important point, then there you go. It's not hard. 60 seconds that took me. And I do believe that Rupert wants to reverse the worst excesses of mass immigration, right? I do believe that.
Do you see why I say that he's arguing from ignorance now? Because Rupert Lowe said everything that he just said there in the first video he did, in his mission statement video. Yeah? So basically, he's misrepresenting what Rupert Lowe's already said. He's already said this stuff. Yeah? We'll carry on with this video.
So this is just not hard. It's not hard to get this stuff right. Anyway, sorry, this video is a bit ad hoc. Usually I prepare these things a little bit better.
Yeah, it's obvious that you haven't. You haven't done your research. You haven't thought out this video well at all. And I think it's because you're crumbling under pressure. Pressure from people on X and on YouTube that are actually saying that what you're talking is a load of shit about Rupert Lowe, because he's already clarified all this. I think you're the one that's under pressure, and you've made a knee-jerk video in this video. And to be honest with you, you've made it worse. You really have.
But yeah, I'm curious what you guys think. Like I said, I'm not...
Oh, you're not curious of what people think on X because you've been blocking them.
Not abandoning Restore Britain at this point. I still have a ton of respect for Rupert. You know, the younger guys who are in the party are fantastic. None of them have been kicked out. I don't know if Charlie Downs has been stamped on. I don't know if...
Again, right, to cover this, right, he's talking about the Tom Harwood post again, right? I said this earlier in the live stream. Why would Rupert Lowe talk to a journalist from GB News that would immediately take anything he said like that and use it against him? Why would he talk about anything, any sort of disciplinary procedure that had taken place within Restore Britain to a journalist? He wouldn't, would he? He wouldn't do that at all. So nobody got stamped on. And it's already coming out. Dan Mutton's coming out, apparently, while I was live streaming, saying Tom Harwood was lying. It's obvious he was lying because he's a little weasel shit stirrer. That's what Tom Harwood is. Again, don't forget, this is the person who lied to Rupert Lowe and came out and said to Rupert Lowe that he couldn't be interviewed on GB News because it was an election cycle and it was against election rules for GB News to interview him, which was a load of rubbish. It was lies. So why are people trusting this man's word at face value? It's beyond me. I don't get it. I really don't.
If that's true or not. I certainly hope not, because I think Charlie's fantastic. And yeah, I'll leave it there. I know some people are not going to like this video. It's probably not going to do very well because it's going to get 1 billion dislikes straight away. But we have to confront these things head on. We have to talk about these things.
I would agree. I've got nothing wrong with people criticising Restore Britain or Rupert Lowe. I really haven't, because that's how we hold their feet to the fire. That's how we keep them on the straight and narrow. What I don't think is a good idea is making misinformed videos like this. Ill thought out videos, poor arguments, and not doing your research. Because it shows in this video. It really does. It shows that you've not done your research on Restore Britain. It shows that you haven't looked at their policies. You didn't even really think about the initial opening video, the Restore Britain mission statement, because everything you brought up in that little Twitter post that you did was covered in that. So it's ill thought out completely, this video, 100%. And it's totally out of character for this guy. I watch this guy. I like him. He does similar sort of videos to what I do. He goes out walking the countryside. He goes on a hike and he says what's in his mind. That's what I like about him. I like people that are straight talking. But on this particular occasion, I disagree with his opinion. I'm not having a go. But I feel that we have to come out and counter misinformation, even within our own movement. Because, you know, how many people does Landuer have? Right, he's got 152,000 subscribers, right? That's a massive audience. This video has been out 4 hours. It's already had 15,147 views. Yeah, he's got a massive pull. This misinformation that he's provided in this video has gone out to a lot of people. Yeah, further than my reach will cover. This is why multiple people need to cover this story and say, yeah, what he said in this video is rubbish. That's why we have to address this. Yeah. It is. I'm just reading the comments, guys. I'm just looking at the comment. Yeah, I agree with that. But if you criticise them, it should be justified criticism. Yeah, I've said this in my morning walk video this morning. I've got no issues with people being critical of Rupert Lowe or Restore Britain. We need to keep them to account, but it has to be an informed argument and a well thought out argument with legitimate criticism. This isn't legitimate criticism. This is arguing out of ignorance of the facts, ignorance of events that have already been happened to cover the things that he's covering. He's acting like Rupert Lowe hasn't come out and addressed any of this when he has last week. Yeah, totally get that. Yeah. Yeah, I found that out today. He blocked a female veteran. I posted that. It was in my my short this morning. I'll show that in a minute when we finish the video. We'll get to the end of the video and then we'll go and have a look at that.
Maybe Rupert will watch this video. I don't know. We'll see. But that's just how I feel about it, right? I just think there are unforced errors here, creating problems where there didn't need to be
No,
any.
it's already been addressed. You're the one creating the problems. You're tearing the scab off the wound and exposing the wound again. That's what you're doing with this video.
Ignore the media headlines. You know, it's just noise. And
wait a minute. You're telling him to ignore the media headlines, but you're addressing him because of the media headlines. Okay.
People who are writing those headlines, they, unlike me, who's making this video, right? I want you to succeed. The people who are writing those headlines want to drag you down, and you're giving them, not me, you are giving them what they want.
No, you're doing their work for them by addressing this, by not thinking about what you're saying. They're doing those headlines to trigger people like you into making videos like this, to drive a wedge in the support base of Restore Britain, and you've fallen for it. You've fallen for those headlines because they've triggered you. Because his response to those headlines have triggered you into this response. And that's exactly what it's designed to do. But you failed to recognize that.
Because you're causing this internal rift within the party that doesn't really need to be there.
There isn't an internal rift. You're creating the internal rift by making a video, making accusations based on, you know, not being informed about what's happening. At the very beginning of your video, when I covered this in the live stream, you stated that you remained ignorant of the facts regarding this. And it shows because you've made an ignorant video of the facts.
We know that you are not some hardened ethno-nationalist, right? We understand that. And everyone was okay with you just sort of ignoring the topic. But at the point in which you come out and say you detest people like me for not wanting to become...
God, you know what, right? I'm not going to go over this again because he wasn't talking about Landuer. I think we can all agree on that, right? Okay, now.
A minority in my homeland, that's not going to work. I'm sorry. And if you keep that up, you will find that people will abandon the party en masse. Because first of all, they'll feel betrayed, they'll feel annoyed.
Right, nobody's going to abandon the party en masse. The party is growing exponentially. It's growing really, really fast. The only thing that could throw a spanner in the works is people like you making videos like this when you've got a subscriber base of 152,000 people, when you put out misinformation like this, because this is misinformation now, because you've not done your research. You admit that you've not put this video together like you normally would, and it shows. It really does. So you've got some responsibility as well. I've got responsibility to my audience, right? You know, it's not like when I was a small channel when I only had like, 50, 100 subscribers. You know, when you get big, and I'm not big by any stretch of the imagination, I'm only 10,000 subscribers. You're way bigger than me. You've got a way bigger platform. So the responsibility grows with the size of your channel. You have a responsibility to your viewers to do the research and make sure that you're giving out factual information to them. Because if you're not, and it turns out that you've been misinforming them like you've been doing this video, then you should really do your research and then come out and do a retraction video, apologizing to people and saying, I got it wrong. I've had to do it myself on this channel. I've gotten things wrong. And it's a test of the man to come out and admit the mistakes and say, yeah, I was wrong about that. I jumped the gun. I was wrong about it. And that with the test of you, because eventually you are going to find out that you were wrong about all of this. Now, if you're the sort of man I think you are, you'll apologize. You'll come out, you'll make a video and say, I got that completely wrong. Yeah. But if you're not, then you'll just carry on like nothing has happened. And at that point, I will lose all respect for you. Let's have a look at some of the comments. A 25-minute video full of repetition. I'm going to say this point, and because I'm still walking, I'm going to repeat it in about 5 minutes. Yeah. I do get why sometimes though people repeat things in the videos. It's because people do have short attention spans, and not a lot of people watch to the end of a 15-minute video. They don't. Yeah. What time are we on with this? Wow, this has been a long one. 2 hours, 27 minutes. Wow. Okay, we'll get to the end of this one.
But secondly, you will close the gap between you and Reform, genuinely, to the point where...
Right, I'll tell you now, Reform are declining. Reform are in decline. I don't think that Nigel Farage, I don't think Nigel Farage will survive this 5 million donation scandal that's brewing. I think he'll quit. I think he'll have to stand down. He's worried himself. He's worried that he's going to get recalled. He's going to get recalled, and there's going to be a by-election. Because I think they're going to come down on him like a ton of bricks. They'll try and remove Nigel Farage from Parliament. They will. So I think the minute that happens, Reform is over. I wish parties would name the parties different, because Reform and Restore are so close in names. It's so easy to get them mixed up. It really is. But yeah, I think Nigel Farage is probably done as an MP. I think his time is over. I don't think he'll be bothered. I think he'll quit. I think he might quit before he's pushed.
Neither party is willing to talk about English identity or the native British people to any extent whatsoever, and how we feel and how we...
He already has. Oh my God. Did he watch? Do you think he watched the initial mission statement of the Restore Britain? I don't think he has.
Been betrayed. And so what's the difference between you? Your secret weapon, right? And identity politics have been used and abused against the native British people for a very long time. But there's some truth to the fact that if you can't beat them, join them. And your secret weapon over Reform and over other parties is to focus on identity. I'm not saying we should go full in on the identity politics, but make the native British people of this. Right.
What is he talking about? What's he talking about? I don't understand what he's talking about now. Yeah, he's talking like he's never, like Rupert Lowe's never addressed the people or addressed their concerns on anything. Except that's constantly what he's done. Yeah, pretty much. No, I've still got lots of things to say. If you want to leave, you can leave, Ben. Okay.
It's not difficult. Think about identity, because that's one of the things that the English people have lost and that they are crying out for. If you want to get them to go.
Right. That, in my conclusion, right, ill-informed video, full of statements and arguments that have already been addressed, and just completely made out of ignorance about what Restore Britain and Rupert Lowe said in the past. That's all I can get from that video. I'm sorry, that's all I get from it. It's a nothing burger video. There's no substance to it. Everything that he brings up in that video has already been addressed. I'm sorry, he just has. Get rid of that now. It's already been addressed. Right. But this video is word salad too. How is it word salad? Yeah. Are you just upset because I'm critiquing Landuer? Is that it? Not you, Vindicator. Him. Okay. Yeah, we all, look, right. We all make a video every now and again that's, you know, ill-informed. I've done it myself. Yeah, I've had to delete videos. I've had to explain why I've deleted videos, and I've had to put out a video apologising, saying I got it wrong. We all do it, but the measure of a man is whether they can come out and admit their mistakes. And it'll be interesting to see if Landuer can do it. If he can't, then he's going to lose a lot of support. Yeah. You've spent minutes giving word salad, but then there's word salad. I don't understand what you get about. I'm just giving a count. If you don't want to watch the live stream, don't watch it. Lots of people have enjoyed it. It needed to be done. You and a few others inspired me to start putting content out again, doing better than I have for a while. So why not? Yeah. I've got no issues with people doing that. I'm glad you've been inspired. That's what we need. We need more people making videos. I wish more people would. Why? See, I get this every time. I got this when I talked about Paul Thorpe. Move on. Don't talk about this. Because I'm talking about somebody you like. Is that what it is? Because if you don't think that I should have an opinion on this, you don't believe in free speech. If you think that only Landuer should be able to talk and say the things that he wants to say, then you don't believe in free speech. I'm sorry, but I've said this before about other people. Thank you. Thank you, Lady JNI. Thank you. I think he did. Yeah. We'll see what he does. He may reflect on it and come out and make a retraction. He may do that. Yeah, let's see what happens. Why? In your opinion, it's not. it's pointless, isn't progressing the debate anyway. Of course it is. If somebody comes out and puts out a video full of misinformation and I come back and critique their video showing how flawed their arguments are, that's progressing the argument. Yeah, maybe not to you because you like the person, because you may be a little bit upset because I've critiqued somebody that you like, but it's most definitely progressing the argument. That's how debate works. Yeah. Anyway, right, guys, I'm going to call it a night. I've been going on too long. I think people want to, call it a night, so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to end the live stream. Thank you to the chat for coming. Thank you for the great moderators and moderating the chat as usual. I really appreciate it, you guys. Thank you for the chat for coming along. Awesome. Really appreciate it. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing the content. Thank you to the old subscribers and new subscribers to the channel. Really appreciate you all coming on board and getting on. Yeah. I hope people take this in the spirit that it's meant. This is meant to be a critique. Yeah. Yeah. We need to do this. We need to critique people. We can't just let them put misinformation out there and let it go unchallenged. Because if we do, we end up in trouble, don't we? Yeah. Good night, everybody. See you all, everybody. Thank you for coming along. I shall see you all soon.